Excuse me, kind sir, but if you could point me to the elevator that leads down to the freaky laboratory,
Don't let the back door on you.
I'll be out your atmosphere.
Let's get it, man.
Before this, he wrote Creed 2 and Space Jam 2. Wow. Well, he,
What up?
he's better now. Okay. Hello, I just wanted to thank you for clicking on my video, and I wanted to let you know not only do I create content in my YouTube channel here, Class in a Glass, but I'm also on Twitch where I play single-player games, multiplayer games, I do movie reviews, cartoon reviews, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Also, it would be a big help if you can check out my Patreon, where you can gain access to audio commentaries, reactions, and the ability to submit questions for my podcasts and videocasts. And all that content can be found in the links below. In the meantime, enjoy the video. We're going to move on to my review for They Clone Tyrone. And for those that don't know, the film follows a series of eerie events that thrust an unlikely trio of a drug dealer, a hooker, and a pimp onto the trail of a nefarious conspiracy plaguing the people of a neighborhood. Before jumping into the review itself, I did want to kind of get into why I haven't reviewed this movie. It's interesting. I was actually going to review this movie a few weeks ago on another platform. But because so many people wanted to see other people review it, I kind of stepped back and went, okay, I'll let them review it eventually when they get to it. But I was curious to check this film out for quite some time, and the reason why I'm reviewing it today, is because I was compelled to review it after hearing, such praise about it. But recently, on Discord Discourse, I had several people mention how great this movie was and how it's one of their favorite films of 2023 so far. And I finally went okay, let's go ahead and check out this movie. Because I saw the trailers for it, I was like, those trailers look, fun. But another part of it is Netflix, for me, is very hit and miss when it comes to a lot of their original content. Mostly, miss. Yes, you do have exceptions, obviously, like recently with Nimona, which is a fantastic film. But, they produce so much content and they release so much of it over a very short period of time that it's almost overwhelming, and you can't even, it's hard to consume all of it. That's why you get all these shows that come out and then they're canceled a few days later. That's why I want to look at, I would love to know what Netflix's optics are. It's very interesting just because it's how are you able to maintain all this? Because you always hear rumors of their billions of dollars in debt. So I am very, very curious about that. However, after hearing from so many people, about this movie, how good it was, I was like, okay, I want to check it out for myself. I want to watch it. And chat, I finally have. I watched this last night, and I got to say, I really enjoyed this movie. It's very obvious that They Clone Tyrone is inspired by certain film genres and a number of filmmaking styles of the past. Before even getting into the main cast of characters and the plot, the film, I think, does a really good job of introducing you to its look and tone. It's what I would kind of describe as very retro-futuristic. With its setting, production design, and technology that characters use and interact with, it gives it almost like a timeless feel that's reminiscent of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and all the way into the 21st century. It has a really interesting look, and it appealed to my own senses of style and aesthetics. When it comes to filmmaking in movies, I really love. One of the things that I personally liked in terms of the look of the movie is the film grain. It's in every single shot, and it reminds me of some of my favorite 70s or 80s horror and sci-fi films. You also have little artifacts that pop up on the screen, and even things that are almost paying homage to cigarette burns in the upper right hand corner. This was typically used as a cue to signal projectionists that that had a particular reel of a movie, let him know that a particular reel of a movie was ending, and it was used for decades for like older movies, and even used by a lot of filmmakers. Some filmmakers like John Carpenter, which was one of his directorial signatures. And speaking of filmmakers, the movie is directed by a first-timer, first-time director Jewel Taylor. And he does a very impressive job directing this movie. Before this, he wrote Creed 2 and Space Jam 2. Wow. Well, he
What up?
he's better now. Okay. His film influences are obvious. Obviously, the works of John Carpenter and Jordan Peele, to be more specific. So much of this movie felt like an homage to Carpenter's They Live.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Which is primarily focused on this global societal conspiracy where aliens have taken over and are using subliminal messages to control humanity. Of course, a lot of this movie reminded me of Jordan Peele's Us, with it dealing with clones, copies of people. But unlike Us, this movie actually makes sense. And I think it's infinitely better than Peele's film, than Peele's Us. It's tighter, it's more fun, and honestly, its messaging makes a lot more sense. I'm sorry, chap, but I can appreciate some of the technical aspects of Jordan Peele's Us, but there is so much of that movie that just makes no sense. And to this day, I'm like, I still don't really know what you're trying to comment on. Like this movie, what Taylor does, you definitely understand what he's commenting on, and he keeps the story surprisingly tight. He doesn't allow it to get too confusing to the point where you start questioning it while watching it, because thankfully you're still having so much fun while watching the movie. It's pretty much just a better version of Jordan Peele's Us, but still stands alone as its own film. And moving to the cast, I have to say, you have a lot of actors in this movie, but we're mostly focused on a trifecta, on a trio, and the three leads: John Boyega, Teyonah Parris, and Jamie Foxx. John Boyega plays this character named Fontaine. He also plays several other characters in the movie. But I would have to say, like, this performance of his, I think it's one of the best of his career, one of the best that I've seen him do in quite some time. It almost reminded me of his, I guess, I don't know if it was his first movie, but it was the movie that I first saw him in, which was Attack the Block. He played this character named Moses, and it, dealt with this inner city community in London that is just so happened being preyed upon by this alien invasion. And I almost kind of felt like it was an homage to that, but he is so good in this film. I mean, we literally, like, the first, however 15, 20 minutes were primarily focused on him, almost like a slice of life. He is this, this drug dealer in this neighborhood, and he has control over so many aspects of it, and people are terrified of him. He also has this softer side that he portrays even early on in the movie, so it's like, okay, there's more to this guy than just this, the drug dealer. But he has this kind of like quiet intensity throughout this entire movie, and it plays out that way. But in the beginning, like he almost seems like he's just about to explode. Like it's just under the surface constantly. Like the people have been aware of him and know him, and they know that's just underneath there. They don't want to anger him. They don't want to piss him off. But that intensity that he brings to this role, because he's definitely the most serious out of all the characters, certainly of the three leads. But it's great, especially what he's going through later on, where it gets very crazy, and when it starts to genre bed, incorporating more sci-fi elements and horror elements and more comedic elements. Like he kind of like grounds it when he's there. But no, he gives a absolutely fantastic performance. And there's like this one particular sequence where all I'll say is, and people know what I'm talking about, he is in the front of the car and there's another car behind him. and he knows what's about to happen, and he just has this kind of quiet moment where he's psyching himself up. It's not like him raging. It's not him going crazy. It's just this quiet intensity, like I said, and it's perfect for that scene. That's the other thing. The tension in this movie, I think, is absolutely fantastic as well. It's great. Even in the early part of the movie, even within the first 20 minutes before we get to all the clone stuff, later on in the conspiracy angle, like even in the beginning, it's handled very, very well. And when it comes to the other characters, we have Tyrone Paris, who plays Yo-Yo, who's a retired hooker, quote unquote. Because, sometimes you have to hoe on the side to earn a little money, Chad, to get from point A to point B to point C. That's what Tyrone Paris's Yo-Yo needs to do. And, in the film, she wants to obviously aspire to be something better, wants to leave the community that she's in. But her, along with Jamie Foxx, provides some of the best comedic moments in the film, where John Boyega is very much the serious, grounded protagonist. She gets to play her role a little more broadly. She gets to have a little more fun. She gets to crack more jokes along with Jamie Foxx. They have actually a really nice rapport. There's this great gag about like Kevin Bacon. This great recurring gag about Kevin Bacon and them talking about Hollow Man. It's just like Hollow Man. I'm just like, what a reference. But again, as they kept saying that, I was like, well, yeah, this is kind of like Hollow Man. So I have to say, I guess Jules Taylor is a Hollow Man fan. I guess that was a film of his childhood that he really connected to and said, I'm going to do my own version of Hollow Man one day. And I'll say this. I'll tell this to to Jules Taylor. You did a better version of Hollow Man. Much better version of Hollow Man. And she's also kind of like the driving force who wants to pursue the mystery further. It's like John Boyega's character of Fontaine. Like, he has his own motivation as to why he wants to figure out, like, okay, what's going on with these clones and everything else. But she, we learn more about her past and how one of her biggest inspirations was Nancy Drew, and we see her be the Nancy Drew of her neighborhood, chat. We see hood Nancy Drew, and it's very entertaining. I think they even say that in the film. I think they might even mention that in the movie, and it's great. It's really, really funny. But she gets her own dramatic moments in the film too. She gets caught in some really precarious situations, her and everyone else. But I thought she was great. And then Jamie Foxx, Jamie Foxx, I've always said is a Renaissance man. He has been able to dip his toes into so many different professions over the years. I mean, whether it be acting, stand-up comedy, music, and here, he is as good as he's always typically is, chat. He plays this pimp, his kind of aging pimp with a very 70s aesthetic and very 70s mentality, pimp named Slick Charles. And, he's one of the biggest standouts of the entire cast. He provides some excellent comedy. And yes, he is very much a pimp, chat, but he's a pimp with a heart of gold. He's the kind of pimp you wish was in your community. He's the kind of pimp you wish was taken care of and watching over those hoes, Chad. He fancies himself the ultimate pimp in the best way possible. But no, he even in the beginning, especially when he interacts with John Boyega's Fontaine, is absolutely hilarious. Because he's kind of scared of him. He's like, oh! Not some people say like, oh, he's like Chris Tucker. He said he's not like Chris Tucker.
Oh, hell no.
He's very much playing the character as his own, but like his reactions kind of killed me throughout the movie. He almost felt like at times the audience avatar. Like, there is some weird, creepy stuff that happens in this movie, and it's like everyone else is like, well, let's go into this mysterious elevator. And Jamie Foxx is like,
Motherfucker, are you out of your damn mind?
guys, anytime this thing happens, like a spooky, scary moment like this happens in a movie, okay, the characters should not do that. We should not get in the creepy elevator that goes to who knows, where. It's like he definitely feels like that, and he works extremely. And then he also gets, much like Tyrone Paris, he also has a couple of dramatic moments when you don't expect it. And I was like, oh, when it happens, it's actually quite good. It's that pimp with the heart of gold, chat. And I really appreciate his performance. And again, it continues to show how fantastic Jamie Foxx is as an actor, whether it be a leading man or as a supporting character. He's great. And again, I also wish him a speedy recovery. I know that he was really sick recently. He was hospitalized, Chad. I know that he's been going through a lot right now, but it's just this movie just reminds you how talented he really truly is. Also, this movie is very much like a genre-bending social satire, and you know what it's commenting on is we throughout the film's narrative in such a organic way that it does not halt the movie or take a moment to stand on a soapbox and wag its finger at the audience. You know, it gets everything it wants to say across, whether it be generational racial trauma, poverty, or black stereotypes, while also serving the characters and the story. You know, unlike something like Us, which I don't even know what the message of that movie was. It's like, no, it has its messages. They're right there, but they're a part of the characters themselves. It's a part of the very story itself. Like, the story would not actually work without the messages. All right? Like, the big kind of plot reveal, the big twist in the movie, it's like it all revolves around the messaging of this film. And so the filmmakers were very, very smart. Very smart to have that always have those messages bolster the story and the characters themselves. Also, this film has like a really great soundtrack and score. It's like, yeah, you have a lot of rap, you have a lot of hip hop, but you also have a lot of 80s synth in here. I want to give a big shout out to Desmond Murray and Pierre Charles, who do the score for this movie. This has to be like one of my absolute favorite scores of the year so far. I mean, it's true, chat. I am a sucker for a good 80s synth score. I mean, it's wearing its influences on its sleeve. You know, clearly they're paying homage to filmmakers / artists like John Carpenter, you know, with their music. But it fits, and they even have like synthy rap and hip hop songs in the film, and I think it just adds so much to it, and the environmental storytelling as well. So there's like a lot of great things that work about this movie. You know, I really only have one big criticism of the film, and there is a sequence where we have an actor in some really bad makeup. It kind of reminded me. It's very reminiscent to that. Remember that Clint Eastwood movie, J. Edgar Hoover, or J. Edgar, whatever it was called, where Leonardo DiCaprio played FBI director J. Edgar Hoover, chat. Yeah, where they, you know, pretty much made Leonardo DiCaprio and Army, the Cannibal, Hammer look like hobgoblins. They do that to a particular person in this movie. I'm just like, I don't know why you did that. Because it comes at like a really big, insightful moment in the movie. It's pretty much at the climax, and we're getting a bit of an exposition dump here, an explanation as to why this is actually happening. And I'm like, you probably should have just casted an old man, an old actor, instead of layering someone in that fake-looking prosthetics and that kind of like magic putty makeup. Like when that happens, I was like, oh god. I was like, is that a mutant or something? But it's like, no, it's just someone in old man makeup, and that didn't work for me, which is so weird because so much of the production design in this movie is absolutely incredible. Works all the way through, chat. To the film techniques, to the costuming, to the very sets. It's so weird that like the makeup in this instance was the thing that just didn't work. And yeah, you have this younger actor trying to do an old man voice. I'm just like, yeah, it's really not working for me. I'm actually kind of curious if people had similar issues with the makeup in the film. But again, outside of that, you know, despite that, you know, so much else works about this movie in terms of the direction, the writing, the acting, again, the production design. Like I said, you know, it's so thoroughly entertaining, and it's a fantastic, just sci-fi horror comedy, while also at the same time having these very poignant messages that stand out, but serve the story itself and serve the characters. I think it's one of Netflix's best films this year, and it's certainly one of the best genre movies of 2023. I highly recommend it. But what about you guys? What did you think of They Cloned Tyrone? Did you like it just as much as I did? Did you have any issues with it? Please let me know.
Let me ask you something.
So people are probably asking, wait a minute, why do they call it They Cloned Tyrone? Like, none of the characters in the movie are called Tyrone for the most part, which is true. You got to watch it to the end, chat. The final end shot, it kind of explains that. It's like, oh! So if you're confused, it's like, when's Tyrone going to show up? He's at the end. Don't worry. Just keep watching. Just keep watching. But I highly recommend They Cloned Tyrone. I hope everyone enjoyed the video, and I want to take the time to tell you about my Patreon, Class in the Glass, which offers hundreds of film commentaries and video reactions to numerous movies, TV shows, and cartoons. If you're a fan of shows like Batman the Animated Series and Avatar: The Last Airbender, or films like Aliens and Raiders of the Lost Ark, my Patreon is the platform for you. Currently, I'm doing a subathon to reach 75 subs on the platform. If we hit 75 subs, we'll be able to start voting on the next edited YouTube reaction, which will include actual clips and scenes from the movies and shows I comment over. Choose from such films as Fire and Ice, Masters of the Universe, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, or Spawn. Subscribing at any tier level is appreciated, and feel free to give feedback at any time. Thank you again for watching the video, and see you next time.